we do not have access to, and I do not there. That's certainly one of them that could be done.
Lady in the front row, please state your name and your affiliation. Thank you.
Two quick questions for you. My first is the report stated that you guys don't have access to all material witnesses. Who are
Federal, we don't have we do not have jurisdiction over federal officers, agents to basically, force them to comply with the subpoena to bring them in. So that's one of the things that, we did not, and a lot of them have body cameras.
Lady in the back row with your hand up, please. You got a follow up? Okay, go ahead. We got a short time, so let's try and move it along.
Before you ask that, Representative Moody wants to follow up on that as well. I want to make sure he has good time as well. Hold on. Representative Moody's going to comment on that first.
Okay, we'll get to you. We'll get to you.
Just for a matter of completeness, while we didn't have the ability to compel participation, there were statements taken from federal agents. Those we did have the opportunity to review and understand, but there's a difference between reading a statement and having the opportunity to question somebody live. So that's for context.
Okay, back behind me here, this gentleman.
approximately 142 rounds of attack were fired inside of the building. You guys think over 100 were fired before police even entered. That's an important clarifying point when we have information.
So that was confirmed to us by.
Oh man. Hey guys, I'm shutting that off because here's the reason. We're a little bit early, so let's just shoot the crap by talking. Punkat, please. Hey Vicky, Sandy, everybody I missed. I have to pull up the look. I went swimming today. We have a pool that's about 10 minutes away, so I took the kids swimming and they're all upstairs chilling. So that's why I bumped the live up. But also too, a little forewarning. Parker is PMSing really bad. And so I've gone through anger reading this report and tears reading this report. So just brace yourselves. Hey, why wonder? But on exciting news, guys. Oh, how do I hide my comment? Okay. One thing I'm really proud of though, and I know it's some people, it might seem, hey, Gen 8, like really, like not a big deal. But I finally hit as of the, like 10 minutes ago, I noticed that hold on, one of my children. Hey, buddy. What's the matter? Oh. Okay. So, hey, Kimberly, I reached 4,063 public watch hours. And so I have completed all the requirements to finally at least apply for monetization. I know it's not, and I reached 1,500 subs. So I know that's not a big deal, but I was really excited about it because I've worked really hard. So anyways, I don't know. And yes, it was done organically. So thanks guys. And I was like, okay, I don't have strikes. We're good. We're good. So I'm going to apply, so anyways, let me get this link up. 1 second. Now, yeah, so I do want to talk about the video. I am going to play a couple pieces that I'll make sure, not now, but I'll make sure that that was clarified when I read this report. Yeah, I have theories on this. I think we're dealing with some accountability needing to be had. I will say, the one thing that I want to make sure is, so some people are like, well, the husband didn't act upset. So when I read the report, so the guy on the phone was actually Mrs. Morales' husband. What I didn't know was right before he got into the school, she called him. And so you see him come in, and I'll play that part because as I watch the full video, what you doing, babe? I'm doing a live. Hey, I hit 4,063 hours. Are you going to stay down here while I do it?
I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me because you have your things. Hey, Rena. Yeah, Gen 8, it's pretty bad. So, again, remember Parker's PMSing, so I cried during it last night, and I was in our little research group chat, like, all this, I was like, I'm so upset, blah, blah, blah. And Rena was like, it's okay to vent. anyways, he does say, he comes back in, and I'll play it here in a minute, and says, "That's my wife, y'all. My wife's been shot. That's my wife." And I noticed somebody, like, he turns around and walks out. Well, what the report says, which I didn't know, was that, okay, now that pointer lever was ridiculous. I looked, okay. What I didn't know was that, well, I never suspected anything bad. When he was out there, she called back and told him that she was dying. And outside, he went to go back in, and they escorted him off the property. I know, Rena, I'll make sure. At the end, a couple things to know. I did catch at 12:13. I heard one of the cops say, a child called. So I heard one of the cops say, a child called, there's victims in there. Okay, so that was 12:13. And the other heartbreaking thing is towards the end, we see I believe it's Alexis Rubio's dad. And so one of his partners or whatever has him held by the back of his vest. Hey, Remy. Hey, Rody Gale. You're not late. I came on early, so we're just like, we haven't even jumped in yet. Hey, Michelle K. So this part is heartbreaking. He was holding him by his vest because he tried to go and like take off, and then you see his head go down because he's like sobbing, hey Diana, and they're rubbing his back, and then before they breach the classroom, you see him start to move because he's gonna go, and they grabbed him and pulled him back, and then like 10 minutes later they let everybody go, and they still, I think they held him. Obviously, I think at that point they didn't. Oh yeah, well, I wonder. Hey, Peaceful Plants. Yeah, Remy, I was waiting for the Hey Gold Star Mom for that to finish before I went live. I think that obviously they didn't want him to be the first to come across that scene. So one thing I do want to, while we're just kind of chatting here for a few more minutes, is there was a total of about 400. Let me read you a few statistics. 400, and we'll go into this. 400 officers. They said at least they can count of 376 for certain police officers. So I will say one thing, and I want to make a disclaimer now. Let me pull you guys up here. Ah, there you are. Whoa. Okay, I want to just make a disclaimer now. If I miss anybody in chat, please don't like address me and tell me you missed me. Hello. How do I say this? I am in no way, shape, or form at all during this live defending, condoning, or accepting the evil that the shooter did. Okay, that's my disclaimer right now. However, my mom heart with some of the things I just read today that we're going to see realizes how many people failed him, including the fact, and we're going to look at this, that when he bought all those guns, the dealership or whatever you call them that you buy a gun for was concerned and alerted the ATF, and nothing was investigated. So let me pull up the article. And it says the reason that they didn't act on it sooner was because of, hold on, I gotta pull this up. Because only handguns have to be reported to, how do I get this to go down? Whoa, whoa, whoa. There we go. All right. So only handguns have to be reported to Oh, yeah. I mean, Remy, that's without, yeah. So, Remy, my take on that is a lot of kids are bullied and stuff, and they all don't shoot schools. Mine is more perspective is how many people have to fail these situations. Like, oh my gosh, that's insane, Remy. Yeah, absolutely, Remy. There's no. Thanks, Jameson. That's the thing, Remy. They're all saying, well, what? Well, let me play, Rena, just so you know, tune out for this part. Hold on a second, guys. I want to play a little bit of the part since we're still waiting. I want to give people the 5 minutes before we go into this report. That's what we're all saying. Well, we can learn from this. No, because we didn't. Nothing was learned from Columbine, right? So we're just gonna say this is really good learning. No, people are saying there needs to be people held accountable. It won't even take that, but good idea, Rena. Okay, first of all, in this report, brace yourself. Punkette, you're not allowed to be near anything you're going to punch because Arredondo or whatever his name does nothing but offer millions of excuses of why he wasn't at fault. One second, I'm going to share my screen. Yes, that's why. So that the report did say this, that everyone was in direct agreement that all of the cops failed that day, except somebody did say, except for the man who, because we can't see the part where he tried to come back in. But and so that's why I think it's important, because I was one of those people that was like, yeah, the hand sanitizer guy, I thought for sure I was gonna find something good that would like be like, oh, he was doing that because, but no, he definitely just got himself some hand sanitizer. All right, we're just gonna watch. There's a couple parts I just feel are important to see. Okay, so this guy that you're about to see come in is the husband, right here. Okay. Oh, thank you, Remy. I'm terrible at this. Yes, I am so sorry, Michelle K. I'm not going to play any more than that. But yes, please, you guys, I am so horrible at remembering to do that. I apologize. That's all we're going to do. So, yeah. But I wanted to make sure we understood that that was, yeah. So that, Halen, that was the husband. He kept checking his phone those first few times because the wife had called and said she'd been shot. Well, what we didn't see was that he went outside and she called again. There was why wonder, and told her that she was dying. And then he tried to get back in. And I mean, you can see he was a walking time, like, oh my gosh, Remy. Yeah, I mean, you could see with how antsy he was back and forth. I mean, had he gone back in, he would have run, I think. run down there. And they only have one daughter, and losing one parent, but losing two, so, but there was some criticism of people saying, I saw on underneath in posts like, well, if it was my, why didn't the, not in mine, but in media, why didn't the husband just keep running in there? Well, we didn't see that part, and he did. Look at how his antsy. As soon as he got that, he started pacing back and forth. He was trying to figure out what to do, So he's the only one of them I have grace for right now. All right, let's do this, right? We're going to dive in because I know exactly where the parts are that, like, I'm not going to go through logistics really, but yeah. So why wonder? Thank you. One thing that was uncovered in this was that now the custodian swears that Arendando has at least 50 keys on his keychain, one of them being the master key. The chief says he doesn't, but yes, and the door wasn't locked. All right, let's do this, guys. But there are parts that are hard to hear, so I'm going to leave that trigger warning up here. It's hard to see, so I'm going to go ahead and read the parts that I feel are super. Hey, Salem. All right, if I don't answer to anybody, I will pop back in. It's just because I'm reading it because it's very closed. Okay, so the first part is just talking about basically that, what happened, and it's telling you, whoops, about the school. What is happening? I wish I could get this. Oh, never mind. There are times when Parker amazes herself. All right, so we're just going to go through like the dedication, and these are the victims, which, obviously important, but with hindsight, Robin Elementary wasn't adequate, I can't talk, prepared for the risk of an armed intruder. Their fences were only 5 foot tall. We pretty much knew that. The school had policies of locked doors, but obviously that was not in effect. In fact, this is pretty maddening. The school actually toyed with circumventing the lock so that substitute teachers could get in. Exactly, Remy. Exactly, Remy. Okay, so the school district did not treat the maintenance of doors and locks with appropriate urgency. In particular, staff and students widely knew the door to one of the victimized classrooms, 111, was unsecured and accessible. It could be locked, but an extra effort was required. Many knew room 111's door had a faulty lock, and school district policy had specifically warned the teacher about it. Now, let me clarify something. It does later come out in the report from the principal that she had failed to submit a work order. So protocol typically was that the staff would come and tell the principal and the administration, and they in turn would do a work order, and then the custodian would fix it. Reyes from room 111 did do that, and he said, I'm going to get in trouble if this lock doesn't get fixed. Because of the fact police would at times do random searches where they would come check the doors to make sure they were in protocol and locked. Okay, so the principal did not report this and put a work order in. This had been happening since spring break of 2022. Now, if you live in Texas, you know that spring break is typically the first or second week in March. This happened in May 24th. So let's continue. Another factor, so this too was like, wow, I didn't think of this. Contributing to relaxed vigilance on campus was the frequency of security alerts and campus lockdowns resulting from a recent rise of bailouts, the term used in border communities for the increasingly frequent occurrence of human trafficking trying to outrun police. Listen to this. Usually ending in the smuggler crashing the vehicle and the passengers fleeing in all directions. The frequency of these bailout-related alarms, around 50 of them between February and May of 2022, contributed to a diminished sense of vigilance about responding alerts. Now, do you remember, y'all, when... Why can't I get back onto my StreamYard? Okay. Do you remember when Chloe, because she just moved here, Chloe, the little girl that ran out of the room, whose best friend helped calm her, she said, "Don't worry about it, Chloe." This was, I believe, Alexis. "Don't worry about it, Chloe. Don't worry about it. This happens all the time." Yes, it does. It happens 50 times since February to May 2022. So they had a complete lack of, like, this is just another day in the trenches type thing. Low quality, brace yourself, y'all. Low quality internet service. Low quality internet service, poor mobile phone coverage, and varying habits of mobile phone usage at the school all led to inconsistent receipt of the lockdown notice by teachers. Perhaps if the alert had been able to reach more teachers sooner, it's likely that more could have been done to protect them and their students. Okay, then. In violation of school policy, no one had locked any of the 3 exterior doors to the west building of Robb Elementary, and as a result, the attacker had unimpeded access to enter. And once inside, the attacker continued into the adjoining rooms 111 and 112, probably through the door 111, and apparently completely unimpeded. So, I know, right? Look, so not only one door wasn't locked, but all 3 of them on the west entrance weren't locked. So, I mean, he couldn't go, hey, Lucia, he could have gone in any of them. But when you guys realize, as we keep going, it's even worse. Locking the exterior would have ultimately not been enough to stop the attacker, but it would have, basically it's saying it would have allowed more time to get prepared. The attacker fired most of his shots and likely murdered most of his victims before any responders set foot in the building. Of approximately 142 rounds the attacker fired inside the building, it is almost certain that he rapidly fired over 100 of those rounds before any officer entered. This is pretty, okay. Since the Columbine, okay, this is, hold on, I want to go down. Despite the immediate presence of local law enforcement, there was an unacceptably long period of time before officers breached the classroom, neutralized the attacker, and began rescue efforts. Remember, this wasn't a recovery. This was a, yeah. Now, you guys have to really listen to this part. The Uvalde CISD's written active shooter plan directed its police chief, Orlando, to assume command and control of the response to an active shooter. The chief of police was one of the first responders on the scene, but as events unfolded, he failed to perform or to transfer to another person the role of incident commander. This was an essential duty he had assigned to himself in the plan mentioned above, yet was not effectively performed by anyone. So, Arredondo wrote this plan, assigned himself the commanding officer, but said he didn't know it was him. Moving on. I mean, they say, like, the chaos of it, we know all that, that there was no command center. I don't want to miss anything, so I'm just, a lot of that we've already known, so we're going down to where it says. All right. We don't need to know the background of the state. It's just telling you who's interviewing and stuff, but we'll see all their stuff. I want to get to the really part where we start to get questions. We already know they didn't do their active shooter stuff. Ooh, rain. I want to read about alert because we already know we've gone over that. There's a part I'm looking for. Here's talking about the rise of bailouts. We just talked about, oh, this is an important part. Kenneth Mueller, the student services director, testified that since February of 2021, high-speed chases have been a daily event in the Uvalde area, causing Uvalde schools to be secured or locked down frequently with 47 secure, that's supposed to say 2022, 47 secure or lockdown events happening since late February 2022, and approximately 90% of those being attributed to bailouts. Parents became so concerned about the number of bailouts occurring near the elementary school campuses that they offered to hire off-duty police supplement for the Uvalde police presence. That's kind of ridiculous. We already know about their policies for locking doors. I'm getting Oh, here we go. There were numerous different master keys that worked with different sets of locks at Robb Elementary. People who had master keys included Harrison, the custodian, Principal Gutierrez, which came out they never even called the principal to ask for a master key, assistant principal Shauna Wolbert, the instructional coach Rebecca Guzman, the secretary, y'all. Oh, whoops, I got so mad I just closed that. We saw the secretary being removed. Amber, I do not know yet if that's paid or unpaid. Okay. Hernandez, or Arredondo himself, has over 50 keys carried with him. Hernandez testified that he does. This is Lieutenant Hernandez testified that he had, as in Arredondo, the Robb Elementary master key that would have worked, even though he didn't ask or didn't attempt to lock it. Okay, guys, now let's talk about all this is where it's going to get pretty, okay? This is pretty graphic, but this is where we're going to get to understand the actual, exactly, Remy. Parents were so concerned before this that they offered to pay out of their own pockets for another police resource. All right, this is where we hear about all of the absolute ridiculous red flags missed. Okay, so really listen to this, y'all. This is about the attacker himself. One motive that drove the man behind the massacre at Robb Elementary was desire for notoriety and fame. And because the committee said they don't want to say his name, we know that, and we're just going to refer to him as the attacker. This is interesting part. They say they wanted to keep the surveillance video private until the families but have seen it, but it says we regret that others under cover of how do you say it, anonymity or something, and for their own motives have sensationalized evidence of this horrible tragedy at risk of glorifying a monster. Interesting. All right, you guys ready? You gotta listen to this, okay, because this is so It's, yeah. The attacker was born in Fargo, North Dakota on May 16, 2004. He was a second child to mother, we're going to say AR because that's how they have her listed, and then boyfriend SR. We've seen them both. The couple split shortly after the attacker's birth, and AR returned to Uvalde with the 2 children. The father had limited and inconsistent involvement in his children's lives from that point onward. We know he was in and out of jail. Mother was known to several witnesses that testified before the committee from her work as a server at a local Uvalde restaurant. She had been involved in the attacker's early life, but over time her relationship with both children became strained. AR struggled with a long history of drug use and other personal issues, though her only criminal history was a 2005 misdemeanor theft, ended in probation, and dismissed 2007 charge of misdemeanor family violence assault. The FBI interviewed a former girlfriend of the attacker who believed, this is freaking, oh my gosh, who believed one of AR's, that's mom, boyfriends, sexually assaulted him at an early age, but that AR didn't believe his outcry. Okay. First failing. The young boy comes in, says, your boyfriend did this to me. Mom doesn't believe the little boy. Okay? Number 1, in his early toddler formative years. The attacker and his family had some support from extended family, most notably AR's mother, CG, she's the grandmother. Testimony before the committee portrayed CG, grandma, as well-known and well-regarded in the Uvalde, pay attention to this, in the Uvalde community, particularly within the local school district from which she had retired after 27 years. CG took on a role of a maternal figure in the lives of both those children, sister and brother. Relatives described the attacker as shy and quiet. The test committee heard he was reluctant to interact with peers because of this is terrible, because of a speech impediment. Poverty is not unfamiliar circumstance in Uvalde. 86% of the children in the school district may be economically disadvantaged. The attacker often wore the same clothing day after day. It gets better though. Hold on. Records from the attacker's early school years reveal varied accounts of his character and school performance. His pre-K teacher's report described him as a pleasure to have in class, a wonderful student, and always ready to learn. It praised his hard work and positive attitude in the classroom. Yet, early assessment showed he was behind other students academically, and by 3rd grade, school officials had already identified him as at risk due to consistently poor test results. School records reveal that someone may have requested speech therapy for the attacker, and his later internet searches show he himself sought information on dyslexia. Ultimately, he received no educational services. Oh, yeah. So hold on. Let's make sure you guys understand. There is no excuse, okay? But it's important to understand how many red flags. Hey, Melissa Jade. Apparently, Remy, it's important to understand how many people and how many red flags were missed. Oh, probably not, Remy. This is in no way, shape, or form any justification or, yeah, none of that stuff. But it helps us to understand of what he came from. It also confirms something later on that the attacker's 4th grade year, this is very important, the attacker's 4th grade year at Robb Elementary School was significant to him. The shooting took place in his former 4th grade classroom. and he discussed bad memories of 4th grade with an acquaintance just weeks beforehand. In testimony before the committee, 2 different narratives have emerged. The attacker's 4th grade teacher testified before the committee. Not only did she know the attacker from having met his teacher, but she was also in Rob's Elementary's 4th grade building in a different classroom at the time of the attack. Okay. Exactly, Remy. So, Alex, I know. So, y'all, last night when I was watching this video, when I saw him, I kept watching. When he came in the hall, he walks past the classroom or the office on the side, and then 2 doors. And instead of going straight, I all of a sudden see him stop, and he looks and he goes down. And I kept saying, man, it just feels like he targeted that classroom. He absolutely did target that classroom. He went to his 4th grade classroom, and you know what I think? I think that he went there thinking his old teacher was there as well, and she wasn't. She was now in a different classroom. Yes, she was his teacher in room 111. His 4th grade classroom. So there we have it. We pretty much can say now, I would say with 95% certainty that he targeted those 2 classrooms. I know, Caddy Gal. Or Caddy, Texas. All right. Whoops, let me get you back on. There's more that I'm like, okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Yep, exactly. So the teacher says she knew the attacker needed extra help in her class because he claimed to be a victim of bullying. Okay, he's in 4th grade. So if you, oh my gosh, whatever. She testified that she met with the attacker's mother, AR, over the mother's concern about bullying, and that she promised AR, mom, that her son would have a good 4th grade year. According to the teacher, it was a good year for the attacker. She said she believed her classroom was a safe place for them, and he made friends. However, members of the attacker's family reported to the committee their belief that other students still bullied throughout his 4th grade year over his stutter, clothing, and short haircut. Okay, lots of people are bullied. A cousin of the attacker said she was in the same 4th grade class with him, and she corroborated the version of his experience that year. She reported an incident in which another girl in the class tied the attacker's shoelaces together, resulting in him falling over and injuring his face. The family believes some of the teachers also picked on the attacker and his cousin. I would have to see that documented, whatever. He describes in his note, though, that it happened in middle school. Clearly, something happened in 4th grade that stuck with him so much that, oh, yeah, I did not see it with the actual, again, same situation. Lots of people are bullied. They don't do this. But we're going to see more red flags here, guys. Hold on. It gets even worse. Records show the attacker had declining attendance with more than 100 absences annually beginning in 2008. Do I have a teacher here? More than 100 absences annually. Teachers, anybody in here, can somebody tell me how many days of school there are in a year, right? Give or take. What, 180? Something like that? No, he's not going to listen. Okay? So he had over 100 absences annually from 2018. My husband's going back upstairs because I'm getting all fired up again. Sorry, baby. Oh, okay. Beginning in 2018, along with failing grades and increasingly dismal performance on standardized and end-of-course exams, which I think now he probably was dyslexic. Well, Uvalde CISD school success officers, and quote, do try to bring truant children back to school. Many Uvalde students have spotty attendance, and the local judicial system reportedly does not consistently enforce truancy rules. It is unclear whether a school resource officer ever visited the home of the attacker. Well then. Yep, Emily, that right there pretty much just said it, huh? And they are saying it's because of no disciplinary history at the school. Oh my gosh. By 2021, at age 17, the attacker had only completed the 9th grade. On October 28th, 2021, Uvalde High School involuntarily withdrew him, citing poor academic performance and lack of attendance. Okay. So we know that they're pretty lax on the truant part because of the fact that the judicial system, it says, isn't real strict on it. And now we know that he was withdrawn, which he never went to school. Okay. Exactly, Pointer Lover. I know. Over 100 days annually and no one pays a home visit? And here we go. In a year distinguished by the general school-age population's return to school in Uvalde and elsewhere after the COVID pandemic, the attacker dropped out of school and turned down a dark path. That's kind of weird because it says he was involuntary, but whatever. Well, in earlier years, notes in his phone reflect that he unsuccessfully sought to fit in, including a fixation with weight and fitness that resulted in an eating disorder. That would explain his cheekbones. In 2021, he appears to have increasingly withdrew and isolated himself. An ex-boyfriend of his mother, AR, described the attacker to an investigating Texas Ranger as a loner who punched holes in the walls of his room after arguments with her. By this time, the sister had left home and graduated, and his best, perhaps only friend was living in San Antonio. He had no driver's license of vehicles. Family members told the committee and other investigators that a group of the attacker's former friends jumped him earlier in the year. The attacker began to teach himself boxing and mixed martial arts. In mid-2021, his relationship with the girlfriend later interviewed by the FBI ended. She described the attacker as lonely and depressed, constantly teased by friends who called him a school shooter. She said he told her repeatedly that he wouldn't live past 18, either because he would commit suicide or simply because he wouldn't live long. The attacker responded to the breakup by harassing the girl and her friends. He began wearing black clothes, combat boots, long unkempt hair. He was active on several social media platforms: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and the French live streaming platform Yubo. He networked in ongoing group chats. We knew that. Snapchat. Most of his usernames and even his email address reflected themes of confrontation and revenge. The attacker began to demonstrate interest in gore and violent sex, watching and sometimes sharing gruesome videos and images of life ending. I know I'm not supposed to say that word. Beheadings, accidents, and the like, as well as sending unexpected, explicit messages to others online. Those who he played video games reported that he became enraged when he lost. He made over-the-top threats, especially towards female players, whom he would terrorize with graphic descriptions of violent and, his online interactions grew more manipulative and controlling as the year wore on, and he presented a more commanding personality online than he did in person, so he liked this control. He pretended to a greater level of maturity, searching the internet for information on sexual practices mentioned by others in conversations. The attacker wrote about his difficulty connecting to other people or feeling empathy for them. This is important. He said he was not human, and he called others human, apparently intending it as an insult. Later internet usage suggests that he may have wondered if he was a sociopath and sought out information on the condition. His internet research resulted in him receiving an email about obtaining psychological treatment for sociopathy. Yeah, I'm going to put that up even more. No, wrong one. There you go. Let me just go scroll through chat. Exactly, Pointer Lover. It can't be, it can't be. He was a disaster. I mean, yeah. What's interesting though, I mean, he asked for an email regarding like, where was any of the adults? And this is, so then it says he focused on achieving notoriety. He believed his TikTok and YouTube channels would be successful. The small number of views he received led him to tell those with whom he interacted that he was famous, that they were mere randoms by comparison, and they were lucky to interact with him. On Yubo, the attacker spoke enviously of publicity given to a murderer and animal abuser whose story became widely known after a Netflix documentary. I don't know who that is. In late 2021, he shared a video online that showed him driving around with somebody he met on the internet, holding a clear plastic bag that contained a dead cat, which he discarded in the street and spit on while his driver laughed. The video then showed the attacker wearing a tactical plate carrier, went on to show him dry firing BB guns at people, and ended a footage of emergency services responding to a car accident, which he claimed his driver had caused. Oh my gosh. And it gets worse. The attacker got a job in late 2021. He first worked at Whataburger, where a friend's grandmother saw him. Listen to this. She snapped a picture and sent it to her grandson, warning that it was an example of what your life will be if you quit school, a sentiment some of his peers then expressed to him directly. Grandmas, please don't do that. Please don't take a picture of a kid and then tell your grandson that, and then have your grandson and the friends go express the same thing. I mean, okay then. So grandma does that. His employer fired him after a month for threatening a female co-worker. He got his next job at Wendy's. A coworker there described him as not a good person and troubled, someone who put himself in a box, would not talk or associate with anyone. An exception to that approach was when he tried discussing guns with another employee. When the other employee received the discussion negatively, the attacker challenged to fight him. The attacker also occasionally worked with his grandfather, who had an air conditioning business, and paid him cash. He had no real expenses. He kept telling his acquaintances that he was saving for something big and that they would all see him on the news one day. Family members thought that he was saving money for an apartment or car, but clues to his real plan surfaced near the end of 2021. Oh my God. The end of 2021 is when he ordered rifle slings, a red dot sight, and shin guards, as well as body armor carrier worn in both the video he shared on the day of the Robb Elementary massacre. No, Caddy, Texas. It was somebody else's grandma that took a picture of him and sent it to his grandson, her grandson, and said, "Don't be like this kid. This is what's going to happen if you drop out of school." Well, then the grandson and his friends went and, well, I guess essentially said, "Dude, this is what my grandma said," and all this stuff. So, okay, so he bought all these things, and the family just thought, okay, all right. At the end of 2021, sure, all right. I can see how that makes sense. Still 17 at the time, the attacker asked at least 2 different people to buy guns for him. We knew about that, which they refused to do. Interviews conducted by other investigators indicate the family members and friends were aware of his effort to buy guns before he was legally permitted to do so. Finally, he developed a fascination with school shootings, of which he made no secret. His comments about that, this is freaking crazy. His comments about them, coupled with his threats of violence and essay, earned him the nickname Uvalde school shooter on that platform. So his nickname on Ubo was Ubo school shooter. Okay. Phenomenal. Wow. Wow. Those with whom he played games taunted him with a similar nickname so often that it became a running joke. Perfect. Even those he personally knew in his local chat group began calling him the school shooter after he shared pictures of himself wearing the plate carrier he'd bought and posing with a BB gun he tried to convince them was real. None of his online behavior was ever reported to law enforcement, and if it was reported by other users to any social media platform, it does not appear that actions were taken to restrict his access or to report him to authorities as a threat. We know that many girls reported him several times. This is when we hear the last days leading up to the thing. Well, the vague idea for a school shooting appears to have been in the attacker's mind as early as late 2021. He began to pursue an evil plan in early 2022. After a falling out with his mother, this is ridiculous. A blowout argument between them was live streamed on Instagram, and several members of the family viewed it. Okay. Somebody's going to have to fill me in. A family live streams this argument, the mother and the son, and no one thinks it's weird. Just saying. Remy, so him and his mom had a blowout fight in early February 2022. That's when he lived with her. And they lived, I don't know which one of them live streamed it on Instagram. And the family saw it. Some of the family, it says, viewed it. Well, I'm sure many people saw it. Whoops, I gotta go back. I know, I guess. So it says then that although sheriff deputies responded to a call, they made no arrests. Whoa. Wow. Soon afterwards, the attacker left home and moved in with his grandmother just blocks away. His relationship with his mother never improved. He retained similar antipathy towards his father, who last saw him about a month before the shooting. The father felt his son had no love left for him. He noticed the attacker had cuts on his face that appeared to be self-inflicted, something other witnesses had observed on prior occasions, and he claimed he was doing something soon. He moved into his grandmother's, where he had no room of his own and slept on a living room floor. A few days before the shooting, he confided in an older cousin who was staying there, telling her that he did not want to live anymore. After a lengthy heart-to-heart, the cousin believed she had gotten through to him. The attacker's uncle also recalled having similar discussions with him. So now we're going to get into I know, right, Lynn? Now we're going to get into the actual, what he bought. And this is pretty eye-opening. Meanwhile, the attacker's planning and preparation became more focused. So the police stop, they don't arrest anyone. They live stream an argument. He tells his cousin he doesn't want to live anymore. She thinks she got through to him. Uncle says the same thing. Still got a speech. Oh my gosh. The committee received extensive documentation compiled by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, blah, blah, blah. He began buying more firearm accessories beginning in February of 2022, including 60 30-round magazines, a holographic weapon sight, and a Hellfire Gen 2 snap-on trigger system. And a note about that is they feel that he might have actually used that. So somebody's going to have to help me out. Yeah, Emily. Yes. And now it's changed. Under 18 can buy that kind of stuff, can buy the magazines and stuff as long as it's not like the bullets or things like that, because I would have had no idea. None. All right. If you're not familiar with the Hellfire 2 Gen, I had to look it up as well. Apparently, it's something to continue. Oh yeah, Tara with Trisha. I guess it's something, and Remy, you might know that makes it so that it's an even faster. Like it'll just keep running through bullets from my understanding. Oh, it does helps. Oh, perfect. So they did find that in the room, and they do believe he might have used it, but they can't prove that he did it because the Border Patrol that went in and actually took him out didn't have any body cams. Okay. On March 23rd, 2022, remember he's still 17, a suspicious person dressed in all black with a backpack was seen canvassing Robb Elementary, but no one ever identified the person. As soon as he turned 18, May 16th, just 1 week before the shooting, he was finally able to purchase guns and ammunition. An online retailer shipped 1,740 rounds of 5.56 millimeter 75 grain boat tail hollow point bullets to his doorstep at a cost of $1,761.50. So let me repeat that. A online retailer shipped 1,740 rounds of hollow point bullets at the cost of $1,700 to his doorstep. I didn't know you could do that. He ordered a Daniel Defense DD-M4 V7, that's an AR-15 style rifle, for shipment to a gun store in Uvalde at the cost of $2,054. On May 17th, he bought a Smith & Wesson M&P 15, another AR style rifle, at the same store in Uvalde at a cost of $1,081. He returned the next day for 370 rounds of M193, 55 grain round with a full metal jacket, which has a soft core surrounded by a harder metal. Wow. He then returned again to pick up his other rifle when arrived on May 20th, 2022, and he had store staff install the holographic sight on it after the transfer was completed. The owner of the gun store described the attacker as an average customer with no red flags or suspicious conditions, just that he was always alone and quiet. The owner of the store remembered asking him how an 18-year-old could afford such purchases. The rifles alone were over $3,000. And the attacker simply said he had saved up. Patrons of the store who saw him told a different story to the FBI, saying after the tragedy that the attacker was very nervous looking and that he appeared odd and looked like one of those school shooters. Okay, well, gave him bad vibes. A background check was conducted and the attacker qualified for the purchases. But while multiple gun sales within such a short period are and were reported to ATF, the law only requires purchases of handguns be reported to the local sheriff. Here, the information about the attacker's gun purchases remained in federal hands, which means I know, Remy, which means on May 20th, 2022, on May 20th, 2022, in the ATF's hands was the amount of guns and ammo that this kid had bought. Now, I get it. They have a lot. I get it. I get it. They have a lot to do. Oh, here it gets better, guys. The attacker's uncle drove him to the gun store twice. Now, let me just say something, okay? Let me just hold on a second. Hold on a second, okay? If your nephew tells you that he might unalive himself and he tells his cousin that as well, you drive him to a gun store 2 times, then you should be held accountable and you should be arrested. I'm sorry, but that is ridiculous. Sorry. Whew. I'm not yelling at anybody. My daughter's like, okay. All right, hold on, please. Okay, so he said he did not know they were going to pick up a rifle the first time. The store is connected to a popular restaurant, and the attacker said he was hungry. When he returned with a long box and no food, it was obvious he purchased a rifle. Oh my gosh. The committee has not learned who took the attacker to the gun store on May 18th, but the uncle drove him back on May 20th after the attacker falsely told him he needed to pick up ammunition purchased online. Okay. Okay. Oh my gosh, I can't even. He needs to be in jail. You have blood on your hands, dude. Wow. The uncle said he did not see what was in the attacker's package and he was too unfamiliar with firearms to know what might have been inside. It is not known that the package contained the second more expensive rifle used in the shooting. The attacker's grandmother and cousin both told him he could not have a gun in the home, so the uncle agreed to store the first. Oh my! The uncle agreed to store the first rifle at his house. He believes the attacker snuck it out after staying the night a few days later. Well, that's where he was then when he got kicked out of Grandma's house. The attacker apparently hid the second rifle outside his grandmother's house until he brought it in the night before the shooting, as he related to acquaintance by text messages. Okay, so he told people that. He had no experience with firearm. The uncle thinks that this was the first time he ever even shot it. He searched the internet for basic information about how to fire it, blah, blah, blah. Online interactions involving the attacker continued to foreshadow a tragedy. In March 2022, an Instagram group conversation, a student told him that people at school talk blank about you and call you school shooter. The attacker began referencing a timeline. On April 2nd, he asked in a direct message on Instagram, "Are you still going to remember me in 50-something days?" After the answer, "Probably not," he retorted with, all right, we'll see in May." He often connected those dates with doing something that would make him famous and put him all over the news. And many of those with whom chatted with the suspect with whom he chatted suspected his cryptic deadlines met violence. Oh my God. For example, in a May 14th conversation, he simply wrote 10 more days, leading to immediate speculation that he meant he'd shoot up a school or something or commit mass murder on that date. On May 17th, a friend told him that an acquaintance of theirs was telling everyone you're shooting up the school. The attacker began sharing photos of his rifles to total strangers. In late April, when a friend proposed visiting the attacker in Uvalde, what you can't see, he says, I'm probably going to go to Uvalde in the summer. We should link. And the shooter says, damn, why are you coming here? If it's before May 23rd, I'm down. And he says to visit you. And he says, if I can get a car by then, probably go in July or August. The shooter, and this is in April, says, damn, that's too late. I'm about to get 2 ARs, want to see? And he says, yeah. Or whatever that means, yeah. He then got great approval when he sent it. Guy says he gives him school shooter vibes. In the last days before the shooting, the attacker saved news stories and other information about mass shootings in Buffalo on May 19th, 2022. That means that he also spent time with his cousin's son who attended Robb Elementary. After playing the children's video game Roblox, the attacker elicited from him details about his schedule and how lunch periods worked at the school. We basically know what he said to the German teenager about, like, everything that was happening and that he had a secret. At Monday, the 23rd at 7 p.m., his order of the 1,740 hollow points arrived. There's more. So let me just make sure everybody's up to date. Apparently not, Pointer Lover. Can we just say if we... Oh, sorry, who... I didn't see... Hey, Crafton, sorry. I know, Crafton. Sorry if I didn't say hi to anybody. I'm reading. Hey, Sleuth. See something, say something, kids. I've told all my kids, see something, say something. Emily, he claims he saved up. His family claims that because he had no expenses that he saved up. But he just started working at the end of 2021. He got fired after a month from his one job and didn't last very long at Wendy's. I'm almost positive somebody said he left there in February. I have to confirm. But, I mean, must be they pay real well there. I looked it up at one point, and the average rate of pay there is $10.43. So he must have been a killer at saving. So now we're going into the actual day. May 24th, 2022 marked the beginning of the end of 2022 school year at Robb. We know they all had the award ceremony. It says that he was, in a private message, the attacker had indicated to acquaintances that he had chosen this date in advance for a significant event. So they have this documented in private messages. Robb Elementary school shooter said he chose this date for a significant event. I had heard this rumor and now it makes sense. Some in the community have speculated, and the attacker intended to choose the date when, carrying out a local tradition, the class of 2022 seniors would return to Robb Elementary to walk the halls at lunchtime. If the former classmates were the intended targets, they were spared because the seniors visited on May 23rd, 2022, the day before the target. I still believe the fact that he had said the fourth grade, I think that was his original plan, was that classroom. But that does not mean that he didn't choose the 24th thinking he was going to do exactly, Sleuth Mom, exactly. Rebellious. Not only did he buy those legally, he bought them online. That's what I thought too, Pointer Lover. Remy, if you're still here, oh, you're making dinner, never mind. Fourth grade was a target, hands down. I mean, he said that. I mean, basically, yeah. I didn't think you could buy hollow points, but apparently he can't. That were delivered to his door. He was home with his grandparents on the morning of May 24th when he sent eerie messages, including to an Instagram model he'd never met, whom he had tagged in pictures of his guns the week before. He wrote, "I'll text you in an hour, but you have to respond. I got a little secret I want to tell you." Evidence shows that the attacker had been getting in increasing conflicts with his grandmother, and she threatened to remove him from her mobile phone plan, which is what was said. On the morning of May 24th, she called customer service to do that. So he had a nearly hour-long FaceTime conversation with his online acquaintance in Germany before he began texting her live updates. Yeah, Crafton, I mean, somebody get that guy some hand sanitizer. Okay, so hold on a second. I want to know, so he had an hour-long FaceTime conversation with a girl in Germany. What happened with that conversation? But then he texted her updates. We know that. He texted her updates that said, "I'm going to tell you right now, hold on, waiting for this beep, bitch. I'm going to do something to her right now. Oh my God, she's on the phone with AT&T about my phone. It's annoying. What? I just shot my grandma in her head. I'm going to go shoot up an elementary school." And she texts him back that night and says, "I just saw the news." Hold up. Wait a minute. 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 How do I guess I'm not understanding the time. Okay, that's so weird. That's so weird. Just 28 seconds after the attacker informed her that he had shot his grandmother and intended to shoot up an elementary school, the teenager replied with a single word, "Cool." Oh, okay, Tara, that's what it is. I'm like, what? Yep, that's what it is. I couldn't understand the time frame. And so she responded with "cool." Okay, then. He didn't have his license. We know that. He stole her truck. He had to seek help from a neighbor. This is the truck. He lost control. There's the truck in the ditch. That's the first time I'd seen that image of it. I'm going down to what it actually. So this just tells we know all that. He tossed the backpack over the fence. Then he climbed over. Robb Elementary coach Yvette Silva was outdoors at the time with a group of third graders. She spotted the backpack being tossed over the fence, followed by a person dressed in black climbing over it. She saw the gun and began to shoot. He began to shoot. So the coach thought the attacker was shooting at her, and she ran from the field toward her classroom. She used her school radio to report Coach Silva to office. Somebody just jumped over the fence and he's shooting. She ran toward a group of third graders on the school playground to tell them to lock down. Okay, we kind of knew that part. He proceeded to the fourth grade teacher's parking lot. He was after the fourth grade. While this was unfolding, dispatch communicated to 911 about this is ridiculous, about the vehicle crash. Numerous officers immediately respond. The Eduardo Canales, the Uvalde police sergeant, commander of the SWAT team, had been at Robb Elementary just an hour before his son's end-of-year ceremonies. While working in his office, other officers ran down the hallway and said there had been a vehicle accident with shots fired. Because remember, the police station is just down the road. So the acting chief of Uvalde Police, Rodriguez, was out of town that day, and on this occasion, Pargas had been designated as acting chief. That's just for the actual Uvalde. He grabbed his rifle, blah, blah, blah. We know all that. And this is where they just talk about where the cop jumped out of the car, popped the trunk to get his vest, proceeded toward the west side of the school building. These are the cops that hid behind the car. At that time, Daniel Coronado arrived on scene. He wore his uniform but had no rifle plates for protection. He stopped his patrol vehicle at the south end of South Grove Street, where it dead ends on Geraldine Street. He saw 2 Uvalde police officers at the intersection who had arrived before. Basically, what it tells you is all the same thing. He asked if he could shoot. The guy didn't respond, and they lost their chance. And the other 2 officers went down because they saw somebody all dressed in black, but it was actually the Robb Elementary coach Abraham Gonzalez. Okay then. Principal Mandy Gutierrez had just finished an award ceremony and was in her office when she heard Coach Silva's report over the radio. She attempted to initiate a lockdown on the Raptor application, but she had difficulty making the alert because of a bad Wi-Fi signal. Crafton, if you're still here, can you hack their system and give them better Wi-Fi? Because, yeah, Remy, that's so weird to me, the left turn. But so apparently they couldn't alert anybody because of, I mean, bad Wi-Fi, y'all. Come on now. She did not attempt to communicate the lockdown alert over the school's intercom. By phone, she called and spoke with Chief Arredondo, who told her, "Shut it down, Mandy, shut it down." Well, I mean, yeah. She told head custodian Jamie Perez to ensure that all doors were locked. She initially locked down in her own office, but she later moved to the cafeteria. Oh my God, okay. They're going through lockdown. So this is important. So I'm trying to skim through things, but this part is, the actual what happened up to that point. The West Building, the 4th grade teachers in and around the building also started to initiate lockdown procedures. Sasha Martinez, that's room 110, she and her class had left their classroom ahead of schedule for recess. Arredondo, this is side note for me, he eventually goes on to basically use their classroom being empty as an excuse. But anyways, they were on their way to the playground. The students started running, some towards the cafeteria. She then decided to take them to a different classroom out in another building. Okay. Room 104 was getting her class ready to go early recess. She stood at the south door of the West Building waiting for a child to get a water bottle when her students heading out of the south door reported the coach was yelling, "Pow, pow," and told her kids to get back in the classroom. Elsa Avila, she's the one that was also shot, taught 4th grade in room 109. She had lined up her students at 11:30 to go to recess. Some of the children reported to her students from Deming's classroom were returning screaming and crying. She opened the door, but she did not see anybody, but she heard a female voice saying, "Get in your rooms," which we saw on video. That was the woman that had propped the door and removed it from being propped, all that. She returned to her classroom and, this is important, slammed the door shut because otherwise the lock would not latch. She turned off the lights and closed the door. Her students knew what to do. They positioned themselves away from the windows and the doors. This is just these other teachers that were around there. We do know that it was believed that she got shot through the wall, Avila. This is really sad. So this is important. I need you guys to listen to this. In room 105, 4th grade teacher Janika Rodriguez received a Raptor alert of a lockdown at 11:32. Okay, apparently the Wi-Fi kicked back in. Her students know what to do and where to hide. Okay, ready? Listen. She stepped outside and checked her classroom door to ensure it was locked. As she did, she looked across the hall and locked eyes with another 4th grade teacher, Miss Garcia, who was locking the door to her classroom on 112. So the biggest remember, if you guys remember, the biggest thing was that everyone said he went into room 12. So that's still, they say that's still, if I missed anything, I'm sorry. If, so we know that that is, it would seem now that that was actually incorrect, that we think he probably went in 111 because the door was unlocked there. And Garcia, it says she did lock the door. So apparently, Remy, it locked from the outside, and if you, most of the doors were all jacked up, and if you didn't slam them hard, they wouldn't lock. So, I mean, I guess. Okay, so this is when he enters the west building, the attacker. Walks along the north side of the west building and observes Miss Ogborn. The attacker entered the unlocked west door of the west building, which we saw. He just scooched right in. The exterior doors on the east and south sides of the building also were unlocked. Oh, perfect. So he could have, no matter what, gotten into the school. Such that even if the west door had been locked, the attacker still would have been able to enter. That is, but his progress would have been slowed. Yeah, slowed getting to that room, but not the rest. After passing through the west door, he walked east into the building. We saw that, then turned his right. We saw him abruptly turn to his right. South into a hallway. He proceeded down to vestibule for rooms 111 and 112 and turned left to face those classroom doors. We know he was going for that classroom that he was, the classroom that he was in fourth grade in, that he told his friends about, Eve and his cousin about up until this time, was room 111. But I believe the teacher he was after wasn't there anymore. And I don't know that he knew that. There's surveillance video in the hallway shows the attacker fired his gun toward rooms 111 and 112 at 11:33 a.m. He walked forward toward the doors. I did see this part too, and could be seen stepping back into the hallway before proceeding again into one of the classrooms. We cannot be certain of the doors the attacker entered, but based on the evidence available, it is most likely the attacker found the door to room 111 unlocked or unsecured and entered through the door. There's no evidence that the attacker made a forced entry through the door. And as noted previously, there is evidence that Miss Garcia, a teacher in room 112, locked her classroom door as witnessed by the teacher in room 105. And we know that room 111, there's substantial evidence that the door did not lock properly. He had, this is terrible. The teacher in room 111, Arnolfo Reyes, knew this and on several occasions reported the condition of the door to the school. There was also evidence that the teachers and students throughout the fourth grade knew the condition of room 111, as they would regularly enter the door to access the printer in that room. Reyes has no recollection of receiving a lockdown alert, or that he undertook the special effort needed to get his classroom door to lock before the arrival of the attacker. According to an analysis provided by the committee, the attacker spent about 2.5 minutes firing over 100 rounds between the two rooms, ultimately killing many victims. This is where it says law enforcement discovered a Hellfire trigger system in the room with the attacker, but based on evidence, they could not determine whether he used that or not. I don't want to. And at 11:36 was when the dispatch came in that Grandma had been shot in the head. After the attacker already fired over 100 shots in the West Building, two separate groups of officers converged on the building at the same time from different directions. So I didn't know that until I saw the video, that there was actually cops at both ends of the building. Which is pretty crazy. No, Remy. So they never put the work order in. It was sent to the principal, and she never correctively put the work order in. So it hadn't been working since they figured around February break. or spring break, which in Texas is first couple of weeks of March. All right, so it says then the separate officers, both ends from different directions, from the time of their initial entry and over the course of the next 5 minutes, the attacker fired another 16 rounds. All right, then. So it's just talking about the police coming from all different directions. We don't need to read all those directions because it's the police officers that arrived. The evidence established that as they arrived, the cops in the West Building, the initial responders knew there had been gunfire inside the building. They heard it and they were approaching. They entered. They could see a cloud of debris in the hallway from drywall, as well as bullet holes in the walls and spent rifle casings on the floor. Yet the testimony received by the committee also indicated that none of these initial responders recalled hearing screams or having any contemporaneous, I don't know how to say that, understanding as they arrived in the building that teachers and students just then had been shot in the classroom. Okay, that's a lie. That is a lie because exactly, Pointer Lover. That's a lie. Are you kidding me, Lynn? I'll go check that out. That's a lie because Amber and a couple of my mods, before they took the thing out of the video, you could hear the kids screaming. So that's a lie. That's a lie. Hold on, let me see what this. In Indianapolis? Oh my gosh, they just had a. No, that was Illinois. Oh yeah, for sure. Hold on. At least 2 dead in shooting at Greenwood Park Mall. Oh my gosh. All right, I'll look at that after. Yep. Okay, so we know. Well, the committee's onto their BS. They were like, yeah, we know. Like, we heard it. Yes, you can hear it. After entering the building, 2 separate groups, we know that. Smoke. Chief Arredondo made similar observations of smoke and spent casings. Well, isn't that great for him? We know we've seen that part in the video. At approximately 11:37, the officers converged from both sides in the hallway, and this is when it says they faced gunfire, getting grazed by fragments of building material, and immediately retreated to the north end of the hallway. Yes, we saw them all run. No shots were fired at that time toward the attacker by the law enforcement responders. What happened the next 73 minutes? So basically, it says the remainder of law enforcement actions at Robb Elementary School until the ultimate breach of the classroom and neutralization of the attacker was a tale of 2 separate responses, north and south sides. I'm trying to get to where Chief Arredondo wondered if they're. So Chief Arredondo, he's amazing, right? He noticed a light on in room 110, the room immediately south of room 111, which was used by Miss Martinez, who had taken her class out of the building for recess. Arredondo wondered if there could be a threat in room 110. The door was either opened or unlocked. He entered to clear the room and he saw holes in the wall. The room was vacant. He told the committee, oh my God, he told the committee he thought, there's no babies in here then. It's awards day. He testified that he prayed that if room 110 was empty, the children might be gone from the rooms occupied by the attackers. This is where I get really angry. Although the encounter had begun as an active shooter scenario, Chief Arredondo testified that he immediately began to think of the attacker as being cornered and the situation being of a barricaded subject, where his priority was to protect people in the other classrooms from being victimized by the attacker. With the benefit of hindsight, we can now see that was a terrible, tragic mistake. Now, this is what what our Arredondo had to say about it. Quotes, "We have this guy cornered. We have a group of officers on the north side, a group of officers on the south side, and we have children now that we know in these other rooms. My thought was, we're a barrier. Get these kids out, not the hallway, because the bullets are flying through the walls, but get them out the wall, out the windows, because I know on the outside it's brick." To me, once he's in a room, to me, he's barricaded in a room. Our thought was, if he comes out, you eliminate the threat, correct? And just the thought of other children being in other classrooms, my thought was, we can't let him come back out. If he comes back out, we take him out or we eliminate the threat. Let's get these children out. It goes back to categorizing. I couldn't tell you when. If there was any different kind of categorizing, I just knew that he was cornered. And my thought was, we're a wall for these kids. That's the way I looked at it. We're a wall for these kids. We're not going to let him get to these kids in these classrooms where we saw the children. Wow. Wow. Unbelievable. Hey, Cotton Candy. Chief Arredondo's testimony about his immediate perception of the circumstances is consistent with what the other responders basically said. They were unaware of what was taking place behind the doors. They obviously were in a school building during school hours, and the attacker had fired a large number of rounds. But the responders testified, this is freaking ridiculous. But the responders testified that they heard no screams or cries from within the rooms, and they did not know whether anyone was trapped inside needing rescue or medical attention. Okay. Not seeing any injured students during their initial foray into the hallway, Sergeant Coronado testified that he thought that it was possibly a bailout situation. Are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me right now? Did anyone else see the video? Did anyone else see the video of the cops crawling to their spot and then running back as they got shot? Well, guess what? They didn't go in the classroom or approach it because they thought, since they didn't see anything, that there was nobody alive. How could you see anything when you're crawling on the ground? Please tell me, how you could see anything because you're, oh, I'm going to keep, sorry, but this is just, I'm like spitting now because I'm so upset. Arredondo, now keep in mind, I believe Coronado, guys, I believe he was the hand sanitizer dude, just if that puts anything in perspective. Okay, Punkhead, I hope you're not by anything. Arredondo and other officers contended they were justified in treating the attacker as a barricaded subject rather than an active shooter because of the lack of visual confirmation of injuries or other information. Chief Arredondo explained his reasonings for not continuing an active shooter style response, telling the committee, when there's a threat, you have to visibly be able to see the threat. You have to have a target before you engage your firearm. That was just something that gone through my head a million times. getting fired at through the wall, coming in from a blind wall. I had no idea what was on the other side of the wall. But you eliminate the threat when you could see it. I never saw a threat. I never got to physically see the threat of the active shooter. This barricaded subject approach never changed the course, despite evidence that Chief Arredondo's perspective evolved to a later understanding that fatalities and injuries within the classroom were a very strong probability. He goes on to say, I guess if I knew there was somebody in there, we probably would have rallied a little more to say, okay, someone is in there. So they did, Shawnee. They yelled continually through the wall. So he just said, I guess. Let me just read that word for word. Quote, this is in his testimony. I guess if I knew there was somebody in there, I would have, well, we probably would have rallied a little more to say, okay, someone is in there. Oh yeah, Danielle, wait till you hear. Yeah, it gets, yeah. Oh my God. I guess we probably would have rallied. Wow. Chief Arredondo went to room 109 and found it locked and dark. He saw a child's head and realized there were students in that room. Yeah. Then he decided to activate the SWAT team. We heard this part where he talks to the dispatch. This is Constable Johnny Field at 1142 arrived on the north end of the hallway, and him and Arredondo were talking on their phone. He began communicating with them on his phone. They discussed the need to evacuate children from the building. Yes, we've gathered that. Coronado, the, I believe, hand sanitizer guy, had exited the building through the south door and made his own report by radio. That's where he, requested all the flashbangs and shields. And he agreed with Arredondo's assessment that the shooter was contained inside and barricaded in one of the offices. He wasn't in an office, you moron. He was in a classroom. Oh my gosh. Dispatch asked Coronado if the classroom door was locked. He responded he was not sure, but that they had a Halligan tool to break it. Wait a minute. Okay. 1142. He requested, oh my God. All right. Radio traffic indicated the attacker was in Miss Morales' classroom. That is the wife of the police officer. And asked whether her students were inside. In response, Coronado requested a mirror to look. Oh my God! I'm sorry. Requested a mirror to look around corners. A voice on the radio stated the class should be in session, meaning yes. After the initial responders took fire from the attacker, Coronado remained outside the building on the south and west sides for a total of approximately 30 minutes. You coward. Regularly advising other officers to be careful about potential crossfire or a fatal funnel in the hallway. Wow. This just tells us about the other officers entering. Sergeant Coronado responded, Chief is in there. Chief is in charge right now. Chief Arredondo was in control and in communication with the other side of the building. Sergeant Coronado was outside. His body camera recorded several people commenting on the need to find a master key. Coronado returned inside the south side of the hallway. He found Arredondo on his phone, also asking for a key, you morons, which was a primary focus of his attention for the next 40 minutes. Arredondo personally tried all of one large set of keys brought to him, and when Coronado cautioned him to stay clear of the hallway and the fatal funnel, Arredondo responded, "Just tell them to effing wait." Much of this time was spent by Arredondo on the phone with Constable Field. He issued a series of additional requests for equipment and support, including snipers, a master key, and breaching tools, repeatedly referencing the need for a key and breaching tools before they could attempt to enter the classroom with the attacker. But while waiting, he also periodically attempted to communicate with the attacker in English and Spanish, including immediately after 4 shots were fired inside the classroom at 12:21. He said that despite all of the discussion of breaching tools, no one made him aware that they had arrived at the building. He prioritized making certain all other classrooms in the buildings were clear of teachers. In the context of this evacuation, Arredondo commented, People are going to ask why we're taking so long." And in an apparent reference to the ongoing evacuations that they were taking care of, the rest of the lives first. This is what he says. People are going to ask, why are we taking so long of the ongoing, blah, blah, blah. He said, the rest of the lives first. So he basically just said, yeah. In addition to seeking keys and breaching tool, the predominant theme of the south side of the building was waiting for Bortak to breach the classroom. Beginning around 12:30, officers entered through the south door and walked by Arredondo and Coronado, stacking up south of rooms 111 and 112 and on the west side of the hallway, anticipating move to breach classrooms. At 12:45 p.m., somebody commented that a ranger had a set of keys that was being tested. Oh my God. And finally, at 12:50, a team of officers made entry and killed the attacker. Arredondo testified that only direction he gave to the north side of the building through Constable Field was for them to evacuate the kids and to test the keys before trying to go into the room with the attacker. He said he did not make any decision for Bortak to breach the classrooms. Okay, so he just said that he didn't even make the final decision to go in the classroom. How much longer was he going to wait? All they had to do was turn the knob. I got to go back downward because there's some stuff in here that you can't miss. It just talks about them running, basically. That no one went close to the classroom until then. And so one of the earliest responders testified that he was never in communication with Chief Arredondo and that he was unaware of any communication with law enforcement officers on the south side of the building. He thought the chief had jurisdiction over the incident and that the Uvalde police was just there to assist. The chief that was out of town called Pargas immediately when he got word and said, you need to set up a command post. And he tried to, but it apparently didn't go well. It didn't work. I want you to hear this part. Uvalde CISD officer Ruben Ruiz, which is Morales' husband, entered through the west door and stated, she says she is shot. Officer Ruiz was referring to his wife, Miss Morales, who was one of the teachers in room 112. Officer Ruiz was escorted away from the building. Lieutenant Pargas also testified he heard on the radio about 911 calls. Okay, this is it. He heard on the radio about 911 calls that had come from inside the classrooms, and he told the committee that it was his understanding that officers on the north side of the building understood there were victims trapped inside the classroom with the attacker. Wow. I just want to make sure there's nothing I miss. And it says that the committee heard evidence that the rifle-rated Shields was the only one that provided. Blah. The committee received no evidence that anyone told Arredondo on the south side of the building about the arrival of the rifle. Finally, the Halligan tool comes at 12:35. According to, this is so stupid. According to a statement, somebody, Guerrero, attempted to pry open a door in the hallway, not any of the doors that they wanted to go into, a random door in the hallway, to see if a Halligan tool would work. He determined it would take too long and dangerously expose an officer. There you have it. That's what it was about, to gunfire coming from inside the classroom. He observed that the classroom doorway had multiple holes consistent with bullet holes, and he did not want to expose or jeopardize the safety and lives of any officers by trying to pry the door open. And there you have it, which was exactly what they cared about. So basically it says, then they obtained the master key, and says, so basically that's all they said. They got the master keys, but it says, as explained above, there is a reason to question whether the door was even actually locked. And then the attacker was standing in front of a closet in the corner of room 111, and he fired his rifles at a stack of officers coming through the classroom door. The officers fired on the attacker, killing him. The committee has been advised that none of the Border Patrol agents involved in opening the door were wearing activated body cameras. Why, sure. Of course. That's pretty much, I just want to make sure we didn't. And again, it says that no one knows who. You mind? Can you turn this light on, buddy? Turn this light on for me. That no one knows whoever got the calls. From the 911 calls, but they started coming in very quickly. And this is what Arredondo, but Chief Arredondo does not consider himself to have assumed incident command. He explained to the committee, remember guys, he wrote the rule that he was in charge. While you're in there, you don't title yourself. I know our policy states that you're the incident commander. My approach and thought was responding as a police officer, and so I didn't title myself. But once I got in there and we took that fire, back then I realized we need some things. We've got to get in that door. We need an extraction tool. We need those keys. As far as I'm talking about the command part, the people that went in, there was a big group of them outside the door. I have no idea who they were and how they walked in or anything. I wasn't given that direction. You can always hope and pray there's an incident command post outside. I just didn't have access to that, and I didn't know anything about it. Hey, Kellyanne. Y'all. Sorry. He wrote the rule. He wrote the rule that he was in charge in an active shooting situation. He wrote the rule. And now he says he didn't know. My gosh. And now it says responders did not remain focused on the task of stopping the killing as instructed by active shooter training. Again, responders, this is a committee, did not remain focused on the task of stopping the killing as instructed by active shooter training. They never attempted to breach the classroom before Bortak accomplished entry. Arredondo explained, here we go again. I knew those doors. Those doors opened outward. They're thick, heavy doors with a metal frame. Most people are used as police officers, used to going to a residence and you kick in doors. That's just such a common thing in our business. You didn't have that option here. I knew a ramrod, which I call a buddy, which is a heavy pipe with two handles. That wasn't going to work. And that's why I called for the extraction tool and the keys. But the door wasn't locked. This is the committee saying, but nobody ever checked the doors of room 111 or 112 to confirm that they were actually locked or secured. Room 111 was probably not. Arredondo's search for a key consumed his attention and wasted precious time, delaying the breach of the classrooms. Oh my God. Nobody called Principal Gutierrez to ask about the location of a master key. The principal! She had a key, and the head custodian had a key. And yet, despite all the effort to find a key, nobody called her. And although discussed on both sides of the building, nobody ever created a diversion on the east side of the building, and rooms 111 and 112 both had windows. And although it should not have proved necessary, had responders remained focused on stopping the killing as soon as possible as the incident dragged on, nobody tasked any law enforcement responder to establish reliable communications between the south and north sides of the building with the resources outside. Oh yeah, this part's radio communication was ineffective, so something else was needed. To the extent there was confusion among officers about whether the scenario was active shooter or barricade, information that there was wounded victims in the room would have clarified the situation. Here's a breakdown, y'all, of responders by agency. 149 United States Border Patrol, 91 Texas Department of Public Safety, 25 Uvalde PD, 16 San Antonio PD, 16 Uvalde Sheriff's Office, 14 Homeland Security, 13 United States Marshal, 8 Drug Enforcement, 7 Sheriffs, 5 Kinney Sheriffs, 5 Uvalde Independent School District, 4 goes down the list. Total police total police presence was, here we go, was 376. They ended up coming out with 376 law enforcement officers, and not one of them ever went in to even check the classroom for 77 minutes. And this guy, if you can even, literally just made excuse after excuse of why he did nothing wrong. And if you read, we should actually find, I bet I can find a response from a hey Tracy, sorry I didn't see you, from a parent over this, because I just want to make sure I got everything. I think that's all that's really. Yeah, now they're just going through everything that like possible that. And one of the things, the communications is bad Wi-Fi. That's one of the reasons. $376 cops and all 11 of one classroom is dead. And, well, 21 people are dead. And it does say in the report, I just missed over it because though they can't, say factually, it is believed that some of the victims, and we know that Morales is. Thanks, YT. Oh, the Wi-Fi. Oh my God, the Wi-Fi. Like, are you kidding me right now? That the Miss Morales probably would have lived had they got her out because she died on the way to the hospital. I want to see one thing. Hold on one second. Don't go anywhere. Uh, what just happened? That's what I wanted. Okay, let's just watch a little bit of this. Nope, that was Wednesday. Here we go. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's read this one. This is pretty crazy. Say what you want. It says that let's share this really quick. Uvalde shooting victim's parent says he was kicked out of a private briefing Sunday. The father of one of the victims said he was kicked out of Sunday's private briefing and surveillance video review. The biological father of Amory Joe Garza was removed from the briefing. Yeah, okay, I just wanted to see what there was a video I wanted to find that was quite good. Yeah, I'm sure we'll find it at some point here. But I don't even know. Like, I don't. Hold on. What did Shawnee say? Yeah, I know. The Wi-Fi, like, so it's like, where do we go from here? And that's what, well, we were watching some of that live, and I got off of it where the committee was answering questions to the parents. Like, the parents aren't going to just forget this. That's the thing is, okay, in my opinion, shouldn't the uncle that drove him twice to this place, to the gun thing and stuff and all that, like, shouldn't he be held liable in some way? And okay, exactly, Remy. Right. So what if all of us go to a job and we don't do something right? We get fired, correct? We get fired. We don't just get put on administrative leave. We get fired. So why are anybody that's in command right now, that was in command that day, still have a job? Yeah, exactly, Remy. And that's what these people are saying. Like, and for me, all this report does is kick those parents and those families right in the gut over and over and over again by the fact that that man owned no responsibility. Really, none of the people that were supposed to be in command owned any responsibility for their part in that day. Not one of them. Not one of those people in those interviews said, you know what, it was bad. It was bad. It was a complete, we messed up. And this guy has been given chances over and over and over again. Pete, over and over again, he's been given chances to address the families, to apologize, to take some level of ownership over his inaction that day, and he has not. And now this is just as bad. This is just as bad. It's just as bad. Everybody, exactly. You don't do your job, you get fired. There's no administrative leave. You don't do your job, you get fired. That's how it works. And all they keep doing is just kicking these families over and over again. The leaked footage the other day, they begged that this footage, that the audio would be turned off or the audio would be removed. So of course somebody leaks it, we don't know who, leaks it to the press with the kids screaming in it. Like, all they keep doing to these people is kicking them over and over again. That's true, Charlie. The excuses in this were mind-blowing. And let's be real, how many more times can we possibly miss the dramatic red flags? And you know what? We need to do a really serious evaluation as a country too on truancy laws and kids slipping through the cracks, because now we know how many shootings. Didn't we just have a shooting in Illinois where the shooter, they were surprised he even graduated because he was there about one time his entire senior year? You got this kid here who misses 100 out of 180 days worth of school for 2 consecutive years in a row, and then he's just involuntarily removed from the school because he doesn't come, and no one checks his house. When you know that mom is a drug addict and dad's in and out of prison, grandma's doing like, and remember, he didn't live with his grandmother up until early of 2022 because he had a falling out, which apparently in their family, you put it and stream it on Instagram. Like, what am I missing? Somebody tell me what I'm missing, because I cannot fathom what we're seeing every day. Like, this was it. This was when it was all supposed to make sense, and we were supposed to get some big, like, oh, that's why they did it. That's why they did it. And then we see the video, and then it's like, okay, well, it's on video now. We know. And then everybody's thinking, well, in the report, we're going to see. I'm thinking we're going to see what the thought process was. Yeah, the thought process was none of us know what we're doing, and we have a moron, and I'm sorry, but we have a moron running this entire show, or not running this entire show, who is in classrooms that are emptied, hoping and praying that maybe the rest of the classrooms are empty. Exactly, Charlie. Here's the deal. You can't pick and choose what you decide. You can't charge the, what's his name, the Crumblies. You can't charge them for leaving the gun safe unlocked and knowing this kid was a ticking time bomb, and not charge the uncle. Of this case, you don't get to pick and choose who you charge. Like, if you're going to do that for this, then you need to be charging a whole lot of people in this. And that starts back from when fourth grade or third grade, when the kid has to look up, when the kid can't read or speak, and everyone knows it, and no one gets help. Hey, shut the F up, Donnie. Okay, Remy, yeah, that's a little different. Yeah, exactly. Please see something. If you see something, say something. Like, this is insane. But you can't, I don't think you can charge the Crumbleys, I don't know how to say their name, and not charge this uncle. There's no way. You stored his rifle at his house and then took him back twice, 2 times. You knew he had a rifle and you took him back to pick up his one, whatever, how many rounds he bought there. And you don't think that there's anything weird about that, even though a couple, what was it, 4 or 5 months prior, he tells you he wants to unalive himself. Like COVID, I understand kids got lost in the shuffle, but this is ridiculous. Here's my issue. In this thing, they said, well, 86% of the people in Uvalde are poverty level. Okay, so they're still human beings. This kid was still a human being at some point. The mother didn't listen to him. There's step one of being unheard. He wanted to be famous. He wanted to be notoriety or whatever. Well, you can take that from the fact that he was never heard by his stupid mother when he, like, back when he was a child, when he was 3 or 4 years old. Right? So he was never heard. He couldn't speak right. No one got him help. Like, they created a ticking time bomb because he was never heard. I don't care. So because their poverty level, that's okay that no one ever helped, that no one ever paid attention to the red flags, or no one ever checked why this kid was missing 100 days of school. So if you're poor, no one checks on you? That's freaking ridiculous. That's just stupid. I don't know, Remy. I would assume it'd be very similar to the Crumbly, something like that. I don't know. And if it's so bad right now that these kids have to have what did I say, 50 bailout drills, 50 drills between February and May because of trafficking, and they just feel like it's just their normal everyday thing, then we've got a whole other problem. But the whole, so we're saying that if you're poor, you don't get to have a proper education. Like, I was so disgusted from start to finish, right from when mom didn't believe the kid, right there, you have just formed in him that no one hears him. And then the kid was a 17-year-old boy with an eating disorder. Hello. Doesn't typically happen with, not always, it does, but I'm saying with, I know. Yeah. Oh, Remy. Yeah, I bet you. And meanwhile, on U-Boat, right, Morky Mom, on U-Boat, people are calling, his nickname is School Shooter. Girls are reporting him for harassment because he's telling them he's going to kill them, and U-Boat leaves him on. And furthermore, when his mother and him live streamed an argument on Instagram, is there no type of like Instagram isn't like YouTube where they've got bots? I don't know. There was no way. I mean, okay, no, let me take that back. There's plenty of way. We've all had, there's a lot of people have a lot of trauma and they don't do this. But yeah, I know you bet. That's true, Remy. And look, if you've got a mom, it sounded like mom showed up a couple times to be mom of the year, a couple times. If you don't have parents advocating that are, you know, fighting, I guess, to get you the help. But it's really sad to me, actually. The part that is sad to me is that he's probably not the only kid that didn't get services. I mean, I think it's my mom heart, and separate him from, like, just in general, that any kid would ever have to look up dyslexia themselves, or have to look up, am I a sociopath and things like that themselves, and no one around them is getting them help, is very sad. It's very sad. Yeah, that's the thing, Robbie. My son's like, I'm going out the window. I don't care what anybody says. But yeah, all I know is that all my kids, we said, I don't care if you think it's a joke. I don't care. You see something, you say something. Like, that's, I just think it's sad that any kid isn't getting the services that they deserve, especially if we're saying, like this did, like, what is, if he's in poverty, so he doesn't, no one noticed he was wearing the same clothes over and over again every day. I guess it's just, my kids have it pretty good. Like, I wouldn't say we spoil them, and we are saving to get a house and all this stuff, but there's moments for sure that I wish I could give them more. However, like, when I look at some of these kids and stuff, they have it pretty good. I know, Remy. I think that, well, that's what the parents are saying. And I will say, fortunately, these parents aren't backing down. Like, there's going to be people that have to give some answers. And I'm just saying, that uncle, I don't know. Right, Shawnee? It was sad to me that the parents had to all get together and offer to pay for another police officer out of their own pockets. In a town or a city, when you've got a 70 or an 86% poverty rate, these parents are offering to pay out of their pocket, a majority of them in a poverty level, for another police officer. Something is wrong. That's what I tell my kids. I'm like, you guys have it pretty freaking good, okay? We're these, I'm sorry, but we're these Caucasian, as they come, white, hick town people. My kids go without nothing. We scrape so that they can play travel ball. Like, they don't know hardship. I'm just going to say it. They don't know hardship. They know hardship, but they don't, they'll never know what these kids go through. Never. Too big an elementary school shit. Absolutely, Red Rock. Concrete. I'll have to look at that, Kellyanne. Yeah. Maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should be a little more content with what I have. It's just, wow. Just a tough situation, and one I don't understand, or I just, I don't know. But if you go to, yeah, so the report's up now. If you guys want to read through it on your own, I just, did the key points and some of the things that I know we've covered. Um, I think it will be an interesting week because I think the parents felt like this would make some sense and it would tie some things together. And instead, I think it just has probably made things more painful. And I do think there's people that there's no way Pete's coming back. I don't know if he thinks he is, but um yeah. Yeah. True, Remy. Oh, thanks, Yvette. And I don't get fired up this often, except for this case. I do get fired up, but this case has. I get really upset about injustices, and I get really upset about like when you do something wrong and not owning it, and that's what we've had over and over and over again in this situation. So, all right, y'all. Wow, this is my longest live ever. We will tomorrow. We're gonna talk about another case, and I'll go look up the other shooting now and see what happened there. But you guys have been awesome, and hopefully things get I don't know, something happens good from this, some change. Yeah, I know, Remy. I know. It's crazy. Lynn, thank you. All right, guys. Well, I'll talk to y'all later. Thank you. I will. I promise, Remy. I'll keep it alive.